Mi365 Podcasts with me, Pete Cohen. Hey everyone, before we start the podcast today, feel free to head over to mi365.me. That's mi365.me and find out for yourself how you can take advantage of 365 days of free life coaching with me to take you and your life to a whole new level. Thanks for listening and enjoy the podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to today's podcast. My guest today is the brilliant Audley Harrison. Audley Harrison was a former Olympic gold medalist in boxing, and his story is amazing. Talk about rags to riches. This is a story that will inspire you. Please remember that Mi365 Podcast is all about hearing and learning from other people's journeys. We believe that our best days are yet to come. And if you believe that, sit back and see what you can learn from this truly inspiring human being. Welcome to another Mi365 Podcast. Now, we've had some great guests over the last few weeks. Actually, since we launched this, we've become number one on a few different lists around the world. Number one in education, number one in health, number two in business. And I'm absolutely delighted that my guest is the absolute legend, the Air Force man, Air Force, the amazing
A force,
a force of nature, the amazing Audley Harrison. Audley, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. How are you?
I'm very good, Pete. Good afternoon to you, and glad to be on. Anything about positivity, and I know that your podcast. I think you're number one now, huh? Numero uno. So I'm grateful to be on, and let's spread that message of positivity around the world.
Brilliant. Well, I first came across you, I think probably how a lot of people first came across you, which was in the Olympics in 2000 in Sydney. I actually had a few athletes. That was one of the best days of my life of working with athletes. I was working with a canoeist, and she phoned me up, a lady called Anna Hemmings, and she phoned me up on the day of the race and just said, listen, I'm really nervous. What should I do? And I know for so many people that must have been like one of the highlights of their career. Tell us a little bit about you. How did you get into boxing?
So, my story is like, I coined a phrase from Tupac, bless his soul. I'm the rose that grew from concrete. I'm not supposed to have been a success. I came from a broken home. I grew up in a tough neighborhood. My parents divorced when I was young. My dad raised all boys, four boys, and he remarried and had three more. So 7 boys in the house. So it was a tough neighborhood we grew up in. A place called Stonebridge, West London. And so I was always sporting. In fact, messing around and getting in trouble. I remember 9 years of age, my dad saying to me, "Hey, what are you going to do with your life? All this messing around." And I had an epiphany. I said, "I'm going to be a famous sportsman." So 9 years old, and all through from 9 years of age until 16, I played a multitude of sports, all team sports mostly, football, cricket, rugby, athletics, all at a good level, no boxing. And but all of those sports, I was like good, but I was never going to be a David Beckham. I was never going to be an Ian Botham. I was a good level of all of those different sports. And then at 16, I shattered my ankle playing in the trials. Always made Watford trials. It was a good level. And 16, I discovered smoking, girls, and went off track. I was expelled from 2 schools, ended up in a young offenders institution. And when I came out at 19, no qualifications, officially, go young offenders institution, no qualifications. If you showed everybody that this guy's going to turn his life around, they'll say, hell no. But when I was in there in Feltham, I said, you know what, this is it. I've got my stripes now. I'm officially a bad boy. It's time to turn it around now. I don't want to come back here. And when I came out, I ended up having a street fight. And I used to love watching the Rocky movies. And my younger brother boxed from 11 all the way through. So I used to sometimes go to his fights. So as you know, with your psychology background, so I had a fight with a guy who I'd met inside, but they kind of tried to bully my brother. And I'm going around the houses, but it's all going to come together. And so I had a fight with this guy. And afterwards, everyone said, "Oh my God, are you a boxer? You look like a boxer." I beat him. He was a big guy like me. and that's what made me go to the boxing gym to give it a shot at 19. So in psychology, they call it a vicarious experience. I modeled myself on my brother. I modeled myself on the Rocky movies, and I had it. And then I walked into a boxing gym. And once I walked into the boxing gym, I knew this was that epiphany that I had at 9 years of age, because I loved it. I liked the swagger, the confidence, the technique, everything just fell into place. And at that point, that I knew this is my purpose. So that's what made me kind of turn my life around. So, and the other thing that I hated, so I got really focused, and the thing that I hated about when they spoke about boxers, they said, oh, here's another boxer from the get-go with no qualifications. So that's what made me say, right, I'm going to be the boxer that goes back to school and gets an education, because I never want them to say, here's another boxer with no education. So That's how my boxing journey started, and that's how my educational journey started. And obviously, within 10 years, I amassed, Commonwealth Games, 2-time national champion, Olympic gold medalist, and obviously Bachelor of Science from Brunel University, sports science degree. So that's where it all came from, that epiphany that I had at 9 years of age. And I found that purpose, my God purpose, my life purpose. And once I found it, I held on to it and got real focused, real quick. I went...
Wow, I had no idea that you had a sports science degree as well. I didn't see that on Wikipedia. But that's awesome, because there are boxers like Tyson and Holyfield also both had a troubled background, but they turned their life around. I think that's one of the greatest things anyone can do, right? They can turn their life around. So did you realize when you got into boxing quite quickly that you thought, hang on a second, I'm pretty good at this? And did you kind of know that you were going to end up being a champion and doing something that very few people do in winning a gold medal at the Olympics?
Yeah, like I said to you, once I went into that gym the first time, I knew this is the sport. Because like I said, all the others I was good, like above average, you can even say, but never was going to be great.
Yeah.
Boxing, winning an Olympic gold medal, that means I was great.
Yeah.
I'm number one in the whole wide world. So when I found boxing, I said, this is the sport. This is that life. This is that vision that I saw when I was a youngster. And I just got really focused, super focused, as you have to do to achieve anything. And I just made the right choices and cut, and became really disciplined. And I just went anal. I just caught, I was just on catch up, because I unfortunately, the average person, you got to have a lot of like perseverance and determination. There's so many metrics that you need to have just to achieve stuff in normal everyday life. When you're on catch up, you need to go super focused, super intensity, super perseverance, because I had to overcome so many obstacles. You have to overcome obstacles anyway. I had to come so many more because I was already labelled, ex-offender, no qualifications. There was, comes from a broken home. So there was a lot I had to do, but I was just determined I'm going to get to the top of this mountain. So, yeah, I had that big vision. But when I started boxing, I just knew this is a sport that's going to, allow me to achieve so much. But I didn't know it was going to bring me a gold medal then.
Yeah.
When I first started, the gold medal wasn't a target then. It was just like, get on the horse, let's start moving forward.
Well, it's interesting. The word champion, I didn't know this until a few months ago. The word champion actually means a fighter. And let's face it, as you well know, anything, and I love what you said, for most people, and you want to achieve anything, you got to be focused, right? And it's so easy for people these days to lose focus, get distracted. But what's it like going in a ring? I mean, I like to say to people, look, in life, you're going into a ring. It's a battlefield. You want to achieve anything. It's not going to come easy. But when you're going in the ring and you're going toe-to-toe to someone, how do you manage, your emotions? When you had like your first big fight, what was that like? Were you able just to cut that all off and talk to yourself in a positive way? How did you deal with that?
So just going back and going to how it is when because once I became up into the Olympic level and once I won that gold medal, I'm Superman. Basically I'm controlling my mind to do what I need to do.
Yeah.
And so you think of when my career imploded, well, Superman left the building.
Yeah.
So when you talk about coming up, you don't have control of your mental faculties. A lot of things done on instinct, the fight or flight. So when you're talking to the average person, that's the fight or flight syndrome. So what I had when I was coming up, I had that ghetto spirit, you might as well say. Yeah. I came from a tough neighborhood. There was a lot of pride on the line. and I came and I wanted to prove myself. So I had that swagger and that confidence, overconfidence, where I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, you ain't beating me. You know, who are you? So it was that. There was that chip on my shoulder, so to speak, and I took that into the ring. So early on, I remember my first ever fight. Actually, it's kind of ironic. My first fight was boxing a policeman. It was in a policeman's working club. With my background, there was a little extra motivation, you know, and it was boxing a guy called, a policeman called Tony Wildgoose. And I still remember the commentary. I stopped him in the second round, okay? And I remember the commentary that said, he's a goose and he's wild, because he was trying to hit me on the top of the head. But the thing about that fight was that I trained for 6 months for that fight, my first fight. And 2 rounds, I stopped him. I couldn't even raise my hands because there was so much emotional energy wasted because you didn't have control of this faculty. It was your first fight, so you was excited, but you was afraid. And that's the average experience for most people when they're competing in sport, when they got to go for a job interview, when they got to go for their first date. There's anxiety, there's anticipation, there's a little confidence. There's a lot of stuff tied up in there. And the thing about it is you've got to try to control all of that so you can get the performance that you want, whether it's a job interview, whether it's your driving test, whether it's the Olympics. So by the time I got to the Olympics and had the fact that I'd done 3 years of university and sports science and leisure management, the module that I kicked up on the most was the sports science and the psychology. I really loved that. And so by the time I got to the Olympics, I really knew how to control this. Yeah. And so it made my performance, I was able to just focus on, you call it the performance pie. There's the sports, there's the physical practice, the skill practice, and the technical and the mental. Yeah. It's all part of the performance pie. So I was able to control all of those different compartments and have an optimal performance. So it's like the task was high because it's the Olympics, but I was able to put all of my metrics in place and have an optimal performance. Where I walked out there feeling 100% confidence, no nerves. I walked out there like it's in my local gym. I was comfortable in the surroundings. So I took the Olympics, but I didn't give it that it's the Olympics. It was just another performance, another opponent, his strengths and weaknesses against mine, and broke it down so it's very pragmatic and very normal. And that's why I was so cool and collected in the Olympics.
Well, I remember it like it was yesterday, because it caused a big storm, and it was like, were you aware that it made so many people feel good, the fact that seeing you win and seeing us win a gold medal, were you aware of that? Were you aware of the kind of euphoria that it gave so many people? What was it like for your friends and your family that you won that gold medal?
Yeah, my friends, my brothers came out with me, and it was like my fight started my tournament started on the first day or the second day, and it was almost the last event. Yeah. Now, boxing hadn't had a gold medal for 32 years, so it was like boxing ain't got no chance. Only 2 boxers out of potential 12 boxers qualified. So they're like, there's that big heavyweight. You talk the talk, but he walks the walk sometimes. Sometimes he doesn't walk the walk. And I was banging on, I'm going to win a gold medal. But I knew how important it was for me to win that gold. Not just for me, for boxing. The whole world-class performance plan, boxing being a part of it, was riding on it. Now you look at boxing and, you look at Anthony Joshua, Nicola Adams and Amir Khan and James DeGale, all of those stories. We needed the funding because boxing wasn't a part of the world-class performance program. So, I was kind of like the instigator to kind of kick that all up and get back. But I had to win the gold to do it. So there's a lot riding it. So I knew as I was getting closer and closer, it was picking up. I mean, my semi-finals, Mom came, Princess Anne came to my semi-final, so I knew it was gathering, but I was staying focused. I wasn't getting caught up in that. So people were starting to tell me how much it was starting to, capture the public imagination, but I was staying in that box, staying focused, because the one thing I didn't want to do is start thinking about it's like process outcomes. I was like, I can't even, I'm here for the gold, but I'm not thinking about the gold. I'm just thinking about my next opponent and what do I need to do to win. So I stayed in that process. And that way I never lost focus to the process, and I never started looking for the outcome. Because the minute you go to the outcome, thinking about the gold, thinking about the end. You know what happens? Everything starts to implode.
So, you said about that chip on your shoulder. I think a lot of people in life must have that, and that's part of the reason why they've been successful, to prove other people wrong. Did you ever kind of lose that chip on your shoulder and then have to kind of find another way of fighting?
Yeah. So, the whole, I have to save most of it for the book that's going to come out one day. The second book. I had a book came out, thankfully, after the Olympics, Realizing the Dream, which spoke about the whole Olympic journey. But once I turned professional, there's a whole nother story there about, overcoming the odds, because really I had to reprogram who I was and what I kind of represented. The whole BBC deal, which was a great deal for me.
It was a big deal, yeah, I remember.
Big deal, brought boxing back to TV, but also is that when that deal ended in 2004, I kind of had to reprogram and kind of like change. I changed who I was in terms of like, that chip on my shoulder wasn't functioning no more, so I had to kind of come back and recreate the same magic, and it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. And you can't kind of say that my love for boxing kind of, when I lost that, because I always wanted. The thing about me is I wanted to be a world champion. But I wanted to be a world champion under my own auspices. I wanted to be an independent promoter, boxer, which had never been done in the UK before.
Yeah.
So I tried something radical. Now you've got, Haymaker Promotions, you've got Khan Promotions, Hatton Promotions. But what I tried to do was take on the system, the promoters, in the right way, I thought. I signed up boxers. And so what happened in Madrid, the guy that was at the Olympics, they called him Muhammad Audley, Loquacious, Charisma. The poems, the rhymes. That guy, because once I turned professional, basically I spent a lot of the time fighting the system. It was like, hey, you should be your own promoter. Because it's like, I was controlling all that revenue streams. And it's like, I ended up becoming like really like, not bitter, but I ended up fighting with, became the guy that I was fighting against all the promoters. And I became one of them to kind of protect the system. And it kind of took me away from who I was in terms of like the fun guy, the happy guy, and it just became, it's a different animal, professional boxing. And that's the one thing I underestimated of how vicious that it is when you're controlling that revenue streams, And it's okay if I'm just a promoter and I wasn't a fighter, but I also had to go and box as well.
Yeah, well, it's so like too much on one plate.
Yeah, it was a big, and even though I had staff and everything else, the ferocity of the, this guy doing it on his own, and just because I was controlling that revenue streams, I definitely underestimated of how vicious the promoters and just the whole system in terms of coming after me. So I had to kind of reprogram, and then when you kind of lose your love for something, it's like the passion is what drives anything. That's like your engine. If you're driving on unleaded fuel. So even though I was unbeaten still in 2004, and the Ring magazine had me as a future of the heavyweights, it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. So I had to kind of rebuild. And then, like I said, I've had good nights, bad nights. You've seen some terrible nights. Like David Hay. The performance it was a terrible night for me. And I've had terrible nights where I've had to overcome. But what people got to realize is that's like from being a kid, 4 years old, come from a divorced home, and I had to overcome. Expelled from school, I had to overcome. Going to a young offenders institution, had to overcome. So, I use that phrase, never ever give up. And it's apparent and it's applicable to all walks of life, whoever you are, whatever you are. They say you want to make God laugh, tell me your plans, and I had these big plans to be a world champion. And look, I'm retired, didn't achieve that goal, but life has to go on. You have to go on.
You know what? I love that. I love that.
Keep moving forward.
I love that.
You have to keep moving forward, no matter what. You can't. It's unfortunately bad things happen to good people, and I'm a good person. In my heart, deep down, I'm a good person, and I didn't achieve all I want. And people can hang that on me. He didn't achieve a world champion. He said, I'm walking up the hill with a bloody mountain on my back because I'm and then more and more the mountain's coming on my back, but I'm still walking, still fighting, falling over, getting up. Still, you get knocked down, you get up. I've been knocked down literally in the ring and in life. But you got to keep moving forward, and you got to keep positive, and because the time on this earth is very precious, and every day above ground is a blessing, and we should be appreciative and grateful for that blessing that we have to live life, and it's a very unique gift, not afforded to everybody,
Yeah, well, actually, you kind of answered my next question, but I just wanted to say first of all that I know that you've inspired so many people all over the world, and I was going to ask you, actually, where is your passion now? Because it seems like you're really passionate about helping other people, right?
Yeah, it's a good. Yeah, I'm passionate about helping people fulfill their potential, and I didn't fulfill all my. I've achieved so much in such a quick time, considering where I came from and how far back I was, and now it's just about trying to uplift people, trying to inspire people. If my stories inspired people to keep going, to never ever give up, and to keep moving forward, then I'm 100% behind that. I'm passionate for life because I know, like I said, this is a one-time deal. Life is not. I always say, life is not a rehearsal, So you're gonna fall, you're gonna have setbacks, but keep moving forward,
Well,
and try to find that positivity in your life. Try to uplift others, and try to put your best foot forward, whatever that is. Set a goal and go for it.
Well, we have people all over the world. The podcast is called Mi365, and the whole concept is about people working on themselves for 365 days, trying to create a different story. Because the story of our life to this point doesn't have to be our future story. We can change that. And I love what you said about the obstacles, because just like the Chinese say, a path with no obstacles, it doesn't go anywhere. And the obstacles are either going to do one or two things, right? They're going to knock you over. And you're not going to get up, or they're going to knock you over and you're going to get up and keep moving forwards. I also love what you said before, Audley, about your purpose. So you had a purpose, right, was to be the best boxer that you could possibly be. But what about the Japanese, they have a word, it's called ikigai, and it means your reason for getting out of bed every morning, right? So what's your ikigai now? What's driving you every day, apart from, helping other people? Where are you going with your life now? What's the next 5 or 10 years going to look like for Audley Harrison?
Yeah, so the thing of behind every adversity wall is your nirvana.
Yeah.
And obviously I got married, but behind all that I realized that, hear me in the public eye, everyone knows me, household name, and but what do I really have? What have I built? And so I realized that life ain't just about being in the paper, it ain't about just fame and fortune. It's about having some substance, And I met my wife and 2 beautiful kids now. So I'm like, my legacy is I got 2 beautiful kids. I got to try to raise them right, do right by my kids. I came from a broken home. So that's one, I want to be, walk my daughter down the aisle. So that's a real, it's like a real purpose. That's a real passionate thing I want to do. For me personally, in terms of just raising man, my wife now, so my wife's 10 years younger than me. I'm 44. My wife's 35. I invested in my wife, so she's got a beautiful hair salon in Calabasas, in Kim Kardashian country, and she's got her own hair care line. So I'm taking time and energy and investing in it, trying to grow her brand and her product line. Because I've done it for myself. I was my own marketing man, you might as well say, before I signed with agents. And so it's about now finding, whether it's in boxing, like advising in boxing, I've been looking at boxing again, of whether I'm going to go back to boxing, whether it's in the hair care world. It's like a consultant, like a consultant in life.
Yeah.
Whether I'm giving advice to kids, I do a lot of public speaking and go and do a lot of events at schools, at colleges, even been to prisons in the UK. So, and I've got a kind of entrepreneurial spirit, A-Force Promotions that I set up after the Olympics. It was like, when you talk about now, when you look at startups and how it was, what I done as a startup, that was disruption to the highest degree. Getting involved with boxing and becoming a promoter straight out from the Olympics. When you look at startup world and on entrepreneurship, that was to the highest degree. At one point, 22 staff who would work with me on my show. So I have that entrepreneurial spirit. With a university background, with a leisure management degree, I have the business fundamentals. I've done it once. Now my wife is doing it well. So I'm still involved. I'm still interested in business. I'm still thinking, what can I use? What can I do as a startup? I'm 44. I want to get, whether it's in the boxing world, the hair world. I don't just want to, I've done the personal training. I used to be a personal training. My degree allows me to be a manager of a health club. Well, I want to put my own name on it, actually put my own health club. So I don't know. I'm kind of just still floating. I'm giving myself the time. Obviously now I'm kind of still in the public eye with the TV shows that I'm doing. Just signed up for Celebrity MasterChef. So keeping myself in the public eye while I'm figuring out what I'm going to do. Well, I'm attracting myself to some good charities here in America and in the UK. So I want to talk about that as well. But yeah, just putting my best foot forward and just 25 years in boxing was a long time. So I kind of stepped away. A couple of medical conditions that I'm working on. I've got a little bit of convergence insufficiencies. That means my eyes, when I'm tired, I can get double vision with my eyes, and that's from boxing. So there is some damage, 25 years, but in terms of my cognitive function and everything else, thankfully everything's good. All the testing I do is clear. Yeah. So I'm fully coherent and good for now. But with CTE and all those kind of conditions, they can creep up on you as you get older.
Yeah, but you've got from what I see, and it's so exciting talking to you because you have a couple of things which are so important. You got discipline. You know how to be disciplined. That's in your blood. But you've also got passion, and passion from what I see, that's where a lot of people they lack. They lack passion and they lack discipline. If you've got both of those things, you can take over the world. I mean, look what you did. I mean. You did what very few people have ever done. You've already left a legacy, and now you're on for another legacy. I didn't even realize actually the legacy that you had with boxing, and the investment that must have gone into boxing because you won that medal. And I love that because I think everyone should think, hey, you know what? It might be just a little thing that I'm doing. It might seem like a little thing, but it could be a big thing. And I was going to ask you. Look, let's wrap this up. But I have to ask you.
I love your t-shirt. What? I love your t-shirt.
Yeah, man.
I love your t-shirt.
Superman. Of course. Yeah. Well, we were talking about that. I broadcast every day on Facebook, and we did a whole week pretty much on superheroes. And I said, look, who's the superhero you love? Was it James Bond, Batman? Who's your favorite superhero, by the way, Audley? Who's your favorite superhero? Who is it?
That's a good one.
Who is it?
Well, in real life,
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Definitely Nelson Mandela was a superhero for me. Yeah. In real life, when I heard his story and then when I read his book, Long Walk to Freedom, I mean, just talk about, what he had to overcome. But there's been to be fair, there's been so many, and when I go back even to biblical times, so many people have come on this earth and have paid the ultimate sacrifice. You can even go back to Jesus, have paid the ultimate sacrifice. And every one of those people I look up to and respect to the deepest degree because of they stepped over the line, and paid the ultimate sacrifice, not just for themselves. It was bigger than themselves, and that's why we still talk about them now.
So a couple more questions. Tell me, who's your sporting hero of all time? Who's the person you'd like to sit down, dead or alive, and have a cup of tea with?
So it used to be Jack Johnson, the first black heavyweight champion of the world. Okay, and in the early 1900s. Okay, and Jack Johnson was, when you look at Chris Eubanks, look at Muhammad Ali, so many things came from Jack Johnson. He was like a real pioneer. But I've recently learned about a gentleman called Bill Richmond, and Bill Richmond is where Jack Johnson got a lot of his stuff from Bill Richmond. And Bill Richmond was actually British in the end. He came from slavery from America to the UK. And what an amazing man. Some guys just done his book. And when I saw the book had been out there too late, I was trying to option the book to get movies. I'm like, that's a definite movie. Bill Richmond, look him up. And he I'd love to have sat down with him because he overcame another guy that overcame so much slavery, even to survive that coming over on the ship, and was able to mix with royalty in the end, train royalty and gentry, and started a business, started a boxing school, started an academy. Just like an amazing story, this guy. And it was just like, there was so much incredible story that I would have loved to have sit down with Bill Richmond and Jack Johnson. But like I said, so many people have inspired me who, through the years, even the story of the Queen of Sheba, who went to Israel and ended up, the 12 tribes of Israel, and ended up having a child supposedly with Solomon, and then came back to Ethiopia. She was the queen of Ethiopia. So many stories. There is so much out there, people, for life. If you go out there and you just research stories out there, you can only be inspired when you hear about some of the obstacles that people overcame to become a story that we talk about now. And so when you think about those stories, when you're feeling down, when you're feeling depressed, it should lift you a little bit, because you think, God, look what they came through. Then you look at your situation and you think, wow, it's not as bad. Because when I lost to David Hay in 2010, I was buried in the media, depressed. It's like, oh my God, what kind of performance was that? They withheld my money, weren't going to get paid, and I came home, and and I lived in Los Angeles. There was a story on the news about this girl called Jessie Reeves, who's 12 years of age. She was 11 years of age, and she had a brain tumor, and she was going to the cancer hospital, and she was able to leave the hospital every day. And then she said to her dad, who was a pastor, she said, Dad, look, I want to start delivering some treats to the other kids who can't leave hospital. And so she was delivering the treats. She's got a brain tumor, and she's delivering these things that she called joy jars. When I saw that on the news, and she had the slogan, never ever give up. When I saw that slogan and her fight, I was like, wow, how can I feel sorry for myself for the David Hay? And look at this girl. So it inspired me. Do you understand? It lifted me. I brought the T-shirt and I started supporting her from afar. Unfortunately, a year later, she passed away. But I started saying that phrase, never ever give up, because it kind of coined what I was trying to say. I always say setback paved the way for comeback to God. But that gave gave my mission a purpose. So I reached out to the dad, like when I came out of Celebrity Big Brother, I reached out to the dad, and the dad was like, because I was still wearing the original T-shirt from way back when, and it brought us together. I became a patron for their charity. We just never ever give up. So, the Jessie Reeves, and then. Then you see in the UK, I'm now supporting the Samaritans, and the Samaritans obviously deals with people who are thinking about committing suicide, ending their life. So the never ever give up. We're talking about a purpose now. They reached out to me organically, and now the never ever give up and the song never ever give up, it has a purpose. I'm doing a charity single, tying it in with the Samaritans. Also, you look at Jessie Reeves and their story of kids going through cancer. That is what life is. We're going through a fight. Like you said, it's like a fight. We're going through a fight. And the Samaritans, they're going through, it's a free hotline. If you're feeling, men, especially men, biggest killer of men, between 34 and 45. Why? Because men like us, we don't like to talk about our problems. We keep it bottled up. Whereas, women talk about it and they'll share it. So men, they don't talk about it, they bottle it up. And then, unfortunately, they're at the door of thinking about ending their life. Life is so precious. Why would you want to do that? We're going to go anyway at some point. So let's try to live to our full potential, and let's have that spirit of never ever giving up. Samaritans say we listen, and Jessie say never ever give up. I say never ever give up. No matter what you're going through, keep going forward. Keep moving forward. Every day is not going to be a good day, but every day is not going to be a bad day. And this is like, what's my passion? My passion is to encourage people not to give up, whatever they're going through. Divorce, lost your job, got no money, got no girlfriend, got no boyfriend, got no, whatever it is you're going through. If you're being vilified, you're being crucified, you're being persecuted, whatever it is, please, within yourself, do not give up. Never ever give up. Find a way to keep moving forward. Reach out to people, talk to people, do what you got to do to keep your story going. It's so important to get that message across.
Wow, man. I tell you what, that's some of the most profound words I've heard in a long, long time. So sometimes I'm a little bit lost for words. I'll just tell you that my wife was given 18 months to live 5 years ago. She had a brain tumor. What's amazing about you is that even me, because I've seen you, you can't but help form an opinion on what you see. And we all have to know that's just a small part of the story. It's not it's the story, because you've only ever been given a few seconds to speak at any one time, right? Because That's just the way it is. But you're a beautiful man. You've got so much passion to help people. And I tell you what, I personally taken something away from that. My resolve of never giving up has just been taken to a whole new level. And I know that there will be at least one person, probably a lot more, that will listen to this and they will take some inspiration from this. And who knows, they'll go and pass that on to someone else. I really, really appreciate you. I feel like I know you and we've never met before. I also just want to know, how can people find out more about you? I know you've got a song coming out. Are people going to be able to buy that song? Are they going to be able to... How can people follow Audley and get on the Audley bandwagon and never give up?
So I'm everywhere. I mean, social media, I'm on Twitter, just under my name, Audley Harrison. I'm on Facebook, Audley Harrison, Instagram, even Snapchat. Snapchat is a force to be. And so you can find me out there. In terms of the song is going to be coming out. Obviously, you can watch me. I'm coming up soon on the BBC, Celebrity Master Chef.
Definitely.
So you can see my cooking skills if you want to have a look, see what this guy's like in the kitchen. And then after that, the song will be coming out. And it's going to be available for download everywhere. It'll be on Spotify, it'll be on iTunes, it'll be on Vivo.
What's it called?
It's called Never Ever Give Up.
Yeah, I thought so, man. I'm definitely going to be playing that.
Yeah, Never Ever Give Up. And, the good thing about tying it into the Samaritans, because obviously they're a charity organization, and some people say to me, hey, why are you supporting the charity? The reason why I'm supporting this charity, they say, well, they don't need you. Come to a small charity. I'm passing my message wherever I can. And like I said, suicide, if I prevent one person from thinking about ending their life, if this message encourages one person to phone their free hotline, then I think I've done my job. I think you've done your job. I feel like I'm happy about that. So the song is everywhere. It'll be everywhere late July.
Wicked.
And just not just for Samaritans. Encouraging, we've got the big Olympic year. Encouraging anybody going through, you're going to the Olympics. You wherever your Olympics is in your own house, getting a job, paying the bills, staying united with your family, supporting whatever it is in your community that you want to do. Don't give up. Just keep, set your goals. If you fall down, just dust yourself off and start again. It's okay.
Listen. Unbelievable. This is so inspiring. I feel like I felt when I watched Rocky 3, just down the road from here, in whenever it was. I went out for a run. I think I might go for a run. Thank you so much, Audley. It's been an absolute pleasure. You're an absolute legend. You were a legend before, but you're even more of a legend in my eyes now, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and if you want more free inspiration to optimize your life so you can achieve your goals in all the different areas of your life, then visit mi365.me. That's mi365.me and sign up to 365 days of free coaching with me, Pete Cohen. Thanks for listening and have an awesome day.